Hello, I'm Jean Alesi. I'm not Berger, and you are listening Behind the Grid.
Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to your favorite podcast, Beyond the Grid, presented by Bose Quiet Comfort 35.2 wireless headphones. Now, when you think of 90s Formula One, who or what springs to mind? I'm sure I'm not alone in saying that for me, my guest this week is near the very top of the list. Who is it? We'll start by thinking about screaming Ferrari V12s, add in some Sicilian roots and a trademark 10-2 grip on the steering wheel, head tilted while cornering. Have you guessed yet? It is, of course, the great Jean Alesi. Jean was, in many ways, the perfect Ferrari driver. He was passionate, fast, and loved by Ferrari fans the world over, not only for his speed, but for the way he wore his heart on his sleeve. He also carried the number 27 on his car, mirroring Ferrari legend Gilles Villeneuve. In many ways, Jean was the 90s equivalent of Gilles. And don't be misled by the fact that he won only one race. In Canada, 1995, Alesi was brilliantly fast on his day, and he had many stellar performances ruined by misfortune. Jean is a regular in the paddock these days, now that his son Giuliano is racing in Formula 2. We hooked up at the recent Spanish Grand Prix to talk about all things Alesi, and I think you'll be surprised and delighted by some of his revelation. Well, Jean, welcome to Beyond the Grid. It's fabulous to have you with us. And when I look at you just sitting opposite me now, I think of you epitomized 90s Formula One because you were fast, you were passionate, you were fun. Just how do you reflect on it all now?
So first of all, I have to say I've been very lucky to race at this time of motorsport. Because for the drivers, it was a dream time. We had a lot of freedom. And freedom means, especially when you have a passion of what you're doing, it's doing what you want. And to have the link with the public. I will take as an example, when I was driving for Ferrari, we were testing in Imola. But every day before the end of the checking flag of the testing, we had to stop on the finish line and to make a donuts and to come back to the pits. That was a duty. If you miss these donuts and this bye-bye to the public, you will be the public was very upset. So I had to do it, and I enjoy so much. And that means a lot. And it's a picture of the 90s. Fun, public, driving.
It was all of those things. And you had such an iconic style. I mean, Jean, you just look at your hand position on the steering wheel. The moment you saw those hands as an observer, it was you, and the tilting of the head. And
we talking always of this freedom. The engineers also had the freedom because we were driving V12, V10, V8 cars. So the architecture of the cars was different. And sometimes the engineer was saying, by the way, there is a driver inside, so we have to see how we fit in. And I had a moment in Ferrari when the car was designed and the steering wheel was too low. And obviously at the time, no power steering. And they didn't have the power to turn the steering wheel. So I found this position on the steering wheel who was suitable for my speed and power to turn and to control the car.
So you didn't have your hands in that position in the junior formulas in Formula 3, Formula 3000?
No. Plus, when I go up through the year, in 2000, the steering wheel start to be like now with all the button, and we had this square steering wheel, so no chance to put the hand on the top. So I had to hold my hands left and right, and that was not a problem at all. But it was the monocoque was a bit higher. We start to have more volume inside of the chassis, because also when the chassis was so narrow, the elbow inside was painful, to have the elbow inside and to turn the steering wheel. It was not easy.
How fantastic. So you could adapt. It wasn't, this is the only way I can drive the car.
No. I was, my feeling was really the spin of the rear wheels, that I need to have it always my car alive. So that gave me the feedback of the car. So, but the position of the steering wheel, I should be also able to drive with one hand at a time.
But Jean, to hear you talk about, you need to have the rear alive, and you had the number 27, and the comparisons with Gilles Villeneuve were there to be made, weren't they?
Yeah, but when you are a Formula One driver, it's difficult to say we are modest, but we always very modest. And I think is the key of the success. If you see now Lewis Hamilton, is for sure the best driver right now, but he's not embarrassed. But when you talk about Ayrton Senna, for him it's a hero. For me, it's the same. When I was driving, I had many heroes, and some of them was actually racing with me, like Ayrton, Alain Prost, or Nelson Piquet. And I had a lot of respect and enjoyment to fight and race with them. But I have dream drivers like Gilles Villeneuve, who I never raced with him, but he gave the inspiration to me to be a racing car driver.
Gilles Villeneuve.
Yeah.
He was the inspiration. How fantastic. But Jean, why was it Formula One for you? Because your dad was a rally driver. You started out in, was it Renault 5?
Yeah, Renault 5.
Yeah.
Because it was such a unreachable category, the Formula One. For me, I didn't think even once to be one day racing in Formula One. But I was choosing the categories link of the prize money to continue to race, because my father still now we have the carrossery, the body shop, but we didn't have a budget. So the only things he was able to do is to give me a room in the garage and to buy the base car. I have to race. So when I was 18, I started with a Renault 5, Cup Renault 5, and then Formula Renault, because the prize money was able to give you some fresh money to continue from one race to the other one. But then slowly going up in the categories, I start to have a success. So I found a little sponsorship. At the time, we had the law who gave us with the cigarettes, the tobacco industry, to have easy money. So Marlboro, then Camel, and then back to Marlboro, who gave me the chance to be able to go up and then to win the Formula 3, then to win the Formula 3000, and finally to reach Formula 1.
How were relations with Eric Comas when you were coming up together? Because you kept beating him, didn't you? In F3, you beat him, and then in F3000, he finished second again.
Yeah, Eric Comas was, in each country, you had the south and the north. And the north doesn't like the south. The south is always the place where you don't take the people really serious, because you imagine, especially in France or in Italy, in south it's the summer all the time. You go to the beaches, you drink pastis. I mean, it's not very. You're not taken by French people so seriously. And I was from the south, and Eric from the north. I had so much good time to beat him all the time. So I had a very good and respect racing with him. But I was so happy to beat him because I was from the south and he was from the north.
And of course, in 3000, you beat him while driving for Eddie Jordan. And Just tell us about what it was like to be with Eddie back in those days.
Well, Eddie at the time was I don't know if he changed, but he was completely crazy. And
he hasn't changed.
Oh, great, because I had such a good time with him and his family, because I was not speaking one word in English, and he took me to an Irish family with all the kids in the house. And for the first week, I was completely lost, but he gave me so much power to continue my career and to help me to go in Formula One. But with Eddie, the funniest story was when he signed me in Tyrrell for one race. That was in July, and with Tyrrell. Then I finished fourth.
Jean, sorry, so he put the deal with Ken Tyrrell together?
Yeah,
Eddie put that deal together?
Yeah, it's Eddie who put the deal with Ken Tyrrell to race one Grand Prix. And he started to bet with Ken Tyrrell, say, you will see he's going to be faster than your top drivers. And it was so embarrassing for me, because I just wanted to be in Formula One, that's it. But anyway, I finished fourth of the race. And of course, I continue with Ken Tyrrell the end of my career, the season, plus obviously that was the beginning of my career. But I went to him and they say, okay, thank you, Eddie. You are fantastic. It's because of you. I'm in Formula One. Good luck for Formula 3000. I said, what do you mean, good luck? I said, Eddie, I'm in 3000 because I want to reach Formula One. Now my contract is done, so thank you. And he said, no way. You win the championship. Otherwise, you will not drive the Formula One anymore. I said, okay. So I had to race one weekend Formula 3000. So one weekend the Formula 3000, one weekend the Formula One. And I won the Formula 3000 championship, one race ahead of the end. That gave me the opportunity to race the end of the championship, Japan and Australia.
You think if you hadn't won it with one race to go, Eddie would have made you do the 3000 and not the...
For sure. But I say really thank you to him, because to have a title, it is nice. I won only one Grand Prix in my life, which is definitely what I would like to be changed, because I lead a lot of races. I finished 17 times second, 33 times I think on the podium. So anyway, one win is not what I was thinking, but I know now, and my record is champion of Formula 3000. I'm very appreciating.
Can I ask you now about Ayrton Senna? Because as you rightly say, that first race, France 89, you came in, you finished fourth, but you actually ran as high as second in that race. Senna was very much the man at the time, wasn't he? How was he with you, the new young gun who's come in and was clearly had a big future in Formula One?
At the time, nobody knew me, Ayrton was definitely, I was not a problem for him, and I'm not sure he think about me, because he was already like a cat and dog with Alain in McLaren at the time. But it was nice for me to see, especially Nelson Piquet, the next Grand Prix, who came to me and say in Italian, Jean, but I understand well you are coming by yourself with your brother. He liked my story, and we start to have a good relationship. And actually, Nelson Piquet was fantastic with me from day one in Formula One, and it's a story nobody knows, but it's him who made the contract in between Ferrari and myself. And I have at home Ferrari F40, because on the contract he put Ferrari F40 as a gift from Ferrari. And I said to Nelson, I cannot give that to the president of Ferrari. He said, shut up, give that. And now I have the F40, because of Nelson who make the contract with me.
So, what a fabulous story. So he did the negotiations between you and the team?
Yeah, because at the time...
How did that come about?
Nobody has a lawyer or a manager. We were just talking directly to the people, to the presidents, to the team owner like Frank Williams, like Ron Dennis, direct, And when you are coming from Avignon and the year before you work with your father in a garage, it's very difficult to have on the front of you Frank Williams or Montezemolo and to say, I would like to have this kind of money, this position in the team, a spare car in case of, and a present from you, from the factory. That is very tough. And Nelson had already finished almost his career because we were talking about 1990. I was, as a friend, explaining who wanted to have me in a team, and he said, "Okay, let me do the contract for you." And when he showed me the paper, I said, "Nelson, I cannot give that to the president of Ferrari. He will laugh and he will take somebody else." He said, "Give it to him." So I give it to him, and I remember the president read. He looked at me and said, "Oh, for a young driver, you know what to put." Huh? Yes. But now I thank him a lot.
Of course. Well, but Jean, that was a really interesting time for you because, tell me if I'm wrong, but I remember it being reported that you had potentially 3 options, didn't you, for 1991? You had Tyrrell, I suppose.
Yeah.
You had Ferrari was another option. That's where you ended up. But there was also Williams. Is that right?
Yeah, no, but it's a bit different in a scale. I was on contract with Tyrrell. But in winter of 89 and 90, I signed a contract, an option with Williams. Okay? And this option was for 91, 2 and 3. And everything was fine for me. In this option was you have this contract for 3 years, but if in French Grand Prix we don't make the announcement to the public, it becomes an option until September for Williams. And when my lawyers saw this contract, they say, it's risky because if you sign that, then you are locked them with Williams until September. And September, you can say, no, I take somebody else. So I went to see Frank and I asked him, Frank, why you put this 3-year line? And say, no, I need it because for Renault, I cannot decide and I would like to make them decide by themselves, say, okay, take Alesi and I will have the contract. I said, okay. So I said that to my lawyer said, sign it. And I signed. We start the championship, that was Phoenix.
Amazing race. For people who don't know what happened in Phoenix, what an amazing race by you.
Yeah, it was an amazing race. Then...
Jean, I need to stop you. Just remind people, you overtook Ayrton Senna for the lead of that race.
Yeah, but for fun. Because I was flying away at the beginning of the race, and that's why the freedom of the engineers helped a lot the drivers. I had a V8 engine, 30 kilo less fuel than anybody else with a V10 over the V12. So at the beginning of the race, my car was very light, and I disappeared. But then when I saw Ayrton coming, I said, okay, he will pass me, but I will give him a lot of a very hard time. And this is what I did. So he overshoot the braking and then I crossed him, but I knew it was just for one lap.
What did he say to you after the race?
No, he said, and the tires was okay because at the time I was with Pirelli and he was with Goodyear. They had to stop. I made the whole race with the same set of tires. So he was shocked about the life of the tires. But he was just interesting about technique and cars. He was not so friendly. Huh? Ayrton is a hero, yes, but he was not friendly with other drivers.
Well, anyway, that was a race where Jean Alesi really arrived, didn't you? So back to the story. Sorry.
So then, when I came back, Frank called me and said, Jean, all okay? He said, of course, all okay. I'm so exciting. And then it was Monaco. And again in Monaco, I finished second behind Ayrton. So everything was going well and it was very exciting. But when we arrived to the French Grand Prix, no announcement. I said to Nelson, I said, Nelson, I'm in trouble because no announcement, now it's an option. And Nelson was a bit upset with me because he said, I told you not to sign, because it was one of my advisors saying, don't sign. Anyway, I said, okay, don't. I will go to Frank. So the following race was Silverstone. And I went to the motorhome and said, Frank, please, sign the contract right now. And he said, no, I have a contract with you. I said, Frank, it's an option until September. So make the announcement, because otherwise I have some other possibility. I say, I know it's Ferrari. I say, yes, it's Ferrari. I get upset with him. I said bad words to him, and I left. Then the following night, I had an appointment with the president of Ferrari. They said, okay, if you give me the 3 years contract plus you take care of my buyout to Williams and Tyrrell, I sign with you. They prepared the paper. In the morning, they gave me the paper. I went to Frank Motorhome and said, Frank, I sign or you sign? And then I said, no, we have an option, blah, blah. I went out of the motorhome, I signed, I gave it to Ferrari. And then that is end of the story with Williams.
Wow. And that was a move that so defined your career in so many ways, wasn't it?
Yeah, but...
do you ever stop now and just think, God, if I'd been driving that Williams in 91, 92, 93...
Okay. Because it's my time, I can talk like that. Ayrton, at the time, was dreaming of the Williams. And he drove the Williams. You know how he went up. So it's nothing against the team, but the destiny, it is everything for me. So I'm not... I don't regret anything. I don't blame anybody, but the destiny is like that. And I had a very good Formula One time. I raced for 201 Grand Prix. I thanks very much Williams for the interest they had at the time for me, but we didn't make happen, and it's like that.
And you were the perfect Ferrari driver as well. Let's not get away from that. Your relationship with the Tifosi, it was a wonderful marriage between you two. Talk about 91, teammate with Alain Prost. What did you learn from Alain?
A lot. It's like not like Charles Leclerc and Vettel actually, because now the kids I see, they grow up in a team and they are beginners, but they are already professionals, and they have so many information from the simulators, and living in a team, it makes a big difference. But for me, it was my first year in Formula One. Then I moved to Ferrari. My teammate was a 4 times world champion. Very open, because I was expecting maybe to hide the setup, or at the time we were able to make not 2 teams but in one, but to hide a little bit the things. And Alain has been always very open, and he helped me a lot. But unfortunately this year the car was very bad. And when I say very bad is because the previous year they almost win the championship. This year we didn't win 1 races. Plus Alain was fired before the end of the season. So that was a dramatic situation for me.
He called it a truck or a tractor, didn't he?
It was a bit changed because he said to the press, you just need to have arms like a trucker. And it was changed, but it was the end, it was a pity actually.
But that car was quite a lot better than the 92 car, yeah?
92 car, it was all the time a kind of changing everything, like in the football. You change the trainer every 6 games, so you cannot make it right. So Niki Lauda was chosen by Montezemolo, and he had the free the freedom to make a team, and this is what he did. They start to build a team, and until '93, when they engage Jean Todt, and Jean Todt gave a chance to John Barnard to work also with Michael Schumacher, but he understood the technical office has to be in Maranello, not in Guilford. So they rebuild again all the system. So every year something was changing and changing and changing. So we had no continuity on what we were doing.
What kind of an impact, though, in terms of the relationship with the drivers, did Todd have?
To the driver, Jean Todt was listening every single complaint, any single wishes. He was extremely close to the drivers, but also to the engineers. I think is the person I made in motorsport who gave the most trust on each sector. Obviously, you need to do the job then.
Berger comes along. Gerhard, lovely Gerhard. He came from McLaren, where he was famous for his practical jokes with Senna and things like that. How did you find Gerhard?
At the beginning, I was not very happy when he arrived, and I said that to...
What was your issue? What was your issue with him coming to the team?
Because I found out by the press, as usual. Gazzetta dello Sport, who 1 week before explained all the detail of the contract. So I read he was a first driver, testing, priority, new parts. So when I read that, I call Niki and I say, Niki, do you think is it fair what you are doing? Because I'm doing I give my life to Ferrari, and because now you restructure everything on a better way, you bring another driver from outside and you make him as a first driver. That I don't like. And Niki said that was fantastic. I remember I was in testing in Portugal when I had the call with him, and Niki said, "Okay, what do you want? More money?" I said, Niki, fuck you. I don't need more money. I have a passion. I love what I'm doing. I need to be like him. I don't need anything else. And he said, okay, let me do something. Then Montezemolo called me. I said, Jean, don't worry. We have to put it like that, but you will have the same. I will be not different. And it was true. But he said, okay, I have a gift for you. And he offered me the Ferrari, the F92. I have at home still now, the car. So I like Gerhard because of the car. And actually, from day one, we did 5 years together, 3 in Ferrari and 2 in Benetton. And I had a fantastic time with him as a teammate, even if I had sometimes to fight on a political way. He was very, very good, and sometimes I was discovering a situation I was not expecting. But
how interesting, Jean, because people's perceptions of Gerhard are that he was a happy-go-lucky, fun guy.
No.
Yeah.
No, very clever guy. Okay, happy life, everything. Sex maniac. but extremely professional. Huh?
Now, is it true that you arrived at a test somewhere upside down in a hire car?
Yes. But that was 80% my fault, and the rest is fault, because I wanted to scare him. Actually, we were in Fiorano, and he has to test day one. I was testing day two, so I was there in the office of close to Jean Todt, and he opened the door. He saw me. He said, come with me. I go to Fiorano. So I came out, and when we came, I was out with him on the parking. He said, bring me to Fiorano. And said, where is your car? I said, I don't have a car. So I knew Jean Todt always was leaving his car on the front with the key on. So I went in the car, start the car, and I start to drive very, very aggressively to scare him. But the problem is every corner he was holding the hand brakes, and it was a Lancia Epsilon 10. I remember very well. And we start to make one corner, two corner, and then when we arrive on the front of the house of Enzo Ferrari, it's a sharp corner, so I brake, downshift. When I turn, it took the handbrakes and the car did like that, boom, on the roof.
Your boss's car?
Yeah. So the mechanics was fantastic. They run to us. They hide the car with a special tent. And I remember Gerhard run in the Formula One. He put his helmet, everything. And at this moment, Jean, Montezemolo, and John Barnard arrived. But the car was already, on cover with a tail. And John Barnard said, what is it, a prototype? Because the front roof was touching the steering wheel, and the rear was like a V, and nobody, the mechanics didn't reply. And they walked to the car and say hello to Gerhard. I was hiding, because I was bleeding a little bit from the top of my head. And Gerhard, the friend, said to Jean, Jean had an accident, talking about me, and said, where is? I don't know, maybe he went to the hospital. So I said, oh, really? And they were all looking after me because Gerhard said he had an accident. But then when he found out why and how, he was so upset with me. But anyway.
Jean was upset?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
He said, how you can do something like that? But he didn't care about me. He cared about his car,
Well, and I imagine there's a whole bunch of stories like that with Gerhard.
We had a lot.
Yeah. We'll get back to the great Jean Alesi in just a minute. But first, this. If you're looking to create a professional website for your own business, or perhaps you want to breathe new life into your existing website, then I've got a little tip for you which might be helpful. Wix is the most technologically advanced website building platform available. So it's no wonder 140 million people currently use it for their own website. Wix can cater for all your needs. If you're starting your website from scratch or refreshing an existing project, it gives you a choice from over 500 stunning templates, so you have the freedom of complete creative control in whatever you want to achieve, which is very important for any brand, no matter what stage of your online journey you're at. All sites include built-in SEO tools, so you boost visibility online and be found in search engines like Google and Bing. And if you need a little help on that front, then you can use Wix's SEO Whiz for a personalized plan. And you can get started now by going to wix.com. That's Wix, wix.com/podcast to get 10% off. Write it down, wix.com/podcast to get 10% off. Now let's get back to Mr. Alesi. Now, Imola 94. Obviously, you're a Ferrari driver at the time, but you'd had that testing accident, hadn't you, at Mugello? So you weren't actually racing that weekend. Were you at Imola for the race?
So I broke actually in Mugello my C4 and C5. So
Massive shunt.
A massive shunt. I remember to wake up in the hospital actually, So it was something incredible. And thanks God, I was in one piece and I didn't have problems for the rest. But I had to miss 2 races, Aida and Imola. And on Friday, I was at the hospital with Professor Sayan when Barrichello had a massive shunt, So everybody was already on the shock of this accident because I don't know if you remember the picture, but the car was really flying in the fans, and he had just his arm broken. That's it, Then on Saturday, I was in Tosa, which is at the end of Tamburello. At the time, Tamburello was this long corner, and then you have a Tosa, which is the place where all the Ferrari fans go. So because I was not racing, I wanted to be on the middle with them, And I watched the qualifying there, and then Ratzenberger has this accident just on my feet, And I remember the noise of the car into the wall. Then we really understand he had a problem when he left the circuit. But it was still a time when nobody imagined you can die with a Formula One, So when he died, it was, of course, a big shock and big problem for everyone. But I found a kind of, from the media and the drivers, but he drive for Simtech. But the Simtech. Okay. When Ayrton died, I was on a pit wall with Jean Todt next to him, and it was just after a restart. So we see the shunt. Okay, we saw the car passing, and then after 2 laps, the shunt, or 1 lap, I don't remember exactly. Ayrton was one of the drivers where sometimes he was exaggerating the movement. I don't know if you remember in Mexico, he had an accident in free practice or qualifying, and he was in a car for a long. No, not this one, another one, and he stayed in a car for a long time, and everybody was waiting, and we took it as a dramatic accident, but not as dramatic because 2 years before, Gerhard with a Ferrari went in the wall there, and the car exploded. And I don't know if you remember, in 2 pieces with fire, everything. And Gerhard went out of the car with some bruise, but he has nothing, So we didn't realize straight away, unless they take out the helmet and we saw the blood, and then we start to understand. And that was a nightmare. Nobody was living in a grandstand because it was all the time a link in between the hospital to say the condition of Ayrton, stable condition. We wait for the last one. We wait, and then when we heard about he passed away, nobody left. Everybody was there. It was very, very, very special weekend.
Did you?
A shit weekend.
Did you ever question whether you wanted to continue racing?
No, but many times we try to have meetings with the driver, We never end up with more than 3-4 drivers talking together. Then we had Monaco, and we had a meeting all together. And we really try to say, all of us, something to improve, especially the circuit. Because at the time, Max Mosley was reacting straight away without thinking about the engineer will like that or not. He put the plank on the car immediately. Then they start to cut the engine cover for the power of the engine. He reacted on that. And Charlie, plus the drivers, we start to have a talk together. Then when we arrive here in Barcelona, we move the chicane. In Monza we race with a tire in the chicane. We try to to avoid as much as possible another drama.
Let's talk about something more positive in terms of your career now. And you mentioned Monza there. What was it like to get your first pole position at Monza in front of the Tifosi as a Ferrari driver?
Now that was, I remember corner by corner, because we had the power, but I had the confidence on this track, because with a low downforce, and my characteristic anyway was the braking. So braking, low downforce, light rear, I was able to drive the car without any problem. And every single corner facing the grandstand, you see the movement of the flags, you understand you are going up, up, up. And then when I passed the finish line, to be on pole was unbelievable.
Do you believe in the power of the crowd to lift your own performance?
100%. That's why I understand football when they say, okay, we play home. The field is the same, but the crowd is everything. And when you drive, or when you do your sport, having this link with the public, you can make more.
What do you reckon it was worth? Can we put a... How many tenths was it worth?
I don't know if you can. Maybe you can be even slower because you exaggerate, but not really. You take the risk, and in Monza, the layout of the track is like now, but with the grass. So the risk you had to take was different, because it was never ever in a driving briefing I heard about track limit, because track limit was the wall, and poor Charlie. But when I was talking with him recently about the track limit, I said, Charlie, you remember our time? No track limit problem. Never ever use grass. So okay, I grew up with the safety, and I'm very pleased to have this kind of safety now on the Formula One. But it's a little bit going on the other side, because you can put some grass plus the run-off area like they are now, which is fantastic, but a little grass to be penalized if you exaggerate.
Yeah.
So the risk you take with a fan, you can do it more.
Now, did you feel that uplift more at Monza or Manicourt?
Oh, Monza. Manicourt, I had always the fan there, close, sharing with me. But the public, when you drive for Ferrari, you drive for the Italy. When you drive in France, they just they are happy because you are French. But, in France, we say, le roi est mort, vive le roi. If it's you, it's nice. If you die, then there is another one, it's nice also, There is no... Ferrari, they have the link and the passion for what you are. And that I like.
But with your Sicilian roots, mum and dad, Sicilian, is a little bit of you Sicilian as well, or do you see yourself as French?
No, I grew up... in my family, we always had the Sicilian education because of my grandfather and grandmother always with us in a house and not talking French. We had to live like Sicilian, but in France. But I like very much to have the mix of the culture, because French, anyway, give you when you're from Sicily a good mix.
And do you still live your life like that now with your own children? A bit of how much Italian is spoken in the Alesi household now?
No, we don't speak Italian. The mother of my kids are Japanese. But
do the kids speak Japanese?
Yeah, of course, yes. But they know our story. They know what my father did to reach his, let's say, to grow up his family. Going out of a country is not easy,
Now, what about Canada 95? You mentioned earlier about the victory, and prior to that race, was there a little bit of you that was questioning whether it would ever happen?
Definitely is not one of my favorite moments of my racing career, because I was so stressed not to finish the race because so many times I had to stop leading the race, having the race in a pocket, I will say, and something was happening. So when I start to lead, and I think it was maybe 15 or 20 laps to go, that was the worst 25 laps I did in my life, because always talking to my engineer, and at the time we were not talking like that, talking now. Now they talk all the time. In our time, when we talk, it's because we had a problem. And I was always asking, fuel okay, engine okay, fuel okay, engine okay. I just wanted to finally go home with a victory, and it happened. I'm very happy about that.
Can you remember the emotions now?
Yeah, sure. People think, for example, I finished the fuel in the in-lap, but I didn't. I was so happy. I went out of the car to say hello to the fan, but then when I jumped down in a car, I stalled the engine because I was in 7 gears.
And did Michael pick you up?
Yeah, Michael stopped and picked me up, and we come back to the pits together. It was fantastic.
So much emotion.
It was great.
Michael was so pleased for you as well.
Yeah, but it's true. And sometimes I was not shy of the victory because I gave so many times my position because of bearing, gearbox or whatever. Something was happening on my car, and then I have to drop my first position. So this time Michael had a electric engine a problem on the steering wheel. I didn't care. I was happy. I said, I'm happy you had a problem.
Yeah. Now look, we've talked about Prost, we've talked about Senna. Just a few words on Michael Schumacher. Where do you hold him in your esteem?
So he went to the place where I work, and I went to the place where he worked.
Of course. So he went to Ferrari, you went to Benetton.
Exactly.
Of course,
yeah. So he has no mystery for me to know how we work. He didn't. It just for me was a mystery how sometimes there are some drivers where they are able to give to make it true what they say. Many times in a team, you here in Barcelona, you make 10 laps, then you come in and you say to your engineer, I would like to have a better rear end because I lose a rear. Or some drivers, when they say that to the engineers, for sure it's like that. They work for that, and some other not. And Michael was the typical driver where whatever he was saying, the team was following his words, and that made him a huge champion because of the trust he gave to the team and the teamwork with him. And he was very hard worker.
And fantastically quick.
Yeah,
of course.
Of course, yes. That nobody can say with the numbers of victory he had, the pole positions, for sure. He was special. But with Senna, I was... I don't know how to say, but Senna impressed me more.
In what way?
Speed-wise.
Was Senna the fastest driver you ever raced in Formula One?
With me, yes. Yeah. And don't underestimate about the car we drove at the time with the qualifying tires. For one shot, massive grip, 550 kilo. The car was very, and no power steering. He impressed me many times.
Men were men, Jean.
Oh, yeah.
Now, Schumacher was a guy that... Did you hang out with him a bit away from the track as well? So would you say he was one of the few drivers who became a friend?
Yes. him.
Rivals who became a friend.
Yeah, I think my friends in Formula One, Alain Prost, Michael, and of course Gerhard. That's really my three solid person I had in Formula One. Nelson, I cannot say more than these three because with these three drivers I race a lot. With Nelson, unfortunately, he left too early with me.
What kind of stuff did you and Michael get up to away from the track? And do you think, was the public face of Michael Schumacher very different to the private face?
Oh, yes. Private face, a family man, sometimes a little bit too much for the training. So I was saying to him, please give up a bit, stay with me. We have a free time, you know. But he was always pushing for bicycle, for football. But he was he's a great guy.
Ever tempted to join him on one of his rides or no?
No, the ride no, because I'm scared of the horses. So
I meant bicycle, but you're scared of rides. Of course, Michael was into his horses, and Corinna, his wife.
And actually I saw once with the horse. He was very good doing the exercise.
Yeah. So you're living in Avignon now, where you've lived all your life. Tell me about the passion for wine.
That is a bit not a passion, but I was looking for a house in Avignon when I left because I live in Geneva for different different reasons. Voilà. So I'm in Geneva, and I said to my father, Papa, if one day we hear about property, I would like to buy for my retirement. When I retire, I will be there. And we look, and then we found this house with the vineyard on the front. We have the olive oil. We have it's a little farm, you know. But I said, okay, but the wine, the driving, it doesn't link. So, but I cannot take everything away. Let's speak with the person who are doing the wine, and we see if we can make a good products, and we don't say anything. We make the wine, and one day maybe we will see if we can talk about the wine or not. And I went mad about that because the way to make the wine is exactly the same way than driving a Formula One car. You have to take risk. The risk is not calculated. Because you have a storm, all the things finito. You have to make a decision of when you pick up. You have to make there is a timing of staying in barrels or in cement tank. Everything has to be made on the correct time, you know. And then you have the expectation. You have to wait and see, like when you have a new car and you have to drive to see what it is, you know. And all these things, without controlling, is what I love. Because you try to make it, but you cannot control everything, you know. And just waiting the new vintage and to try to say, okay, it's good, it's not good, it's bitter, why not? That is something I get mad for.
And are you the guy calling the shots when to pick the grapes?
No. I'm just looking.
Just okay. So you
just looking, just looking, because it's such a tough and job, and you need to be to have a huge experience to make a good wine.
When did you buy the property? What year?
In '94.
Oh, okay, so you've had it for a long time.
Yeah.
A long time. Now, last three teams: Benetton, Sauber, Prost. Where were you happiest? And Jordan, actually, but that was only for a few races, wasn't it?
You know, the best for me was Ferrari. My life was really Ferrari. I had whatever was the result, but to live in this team, to live a championship with them, It's fantastic. That was difficult to describe.
Everything else that came after was
Different, professional, less technical support, good management, but different. Ferrari is unique. It's unique. Good or bad, whatever is happening, something is happening.
You mentioned management there. You worked with Flavio Briatore in Benetton. Mm-hmm. How did you find him, and how different was he to Jean Todt?
To make it short, it was very different.
Where were the differences? I mean, Flavio is a maverick, isn't he?
No, but everywhere. The understanding of motorsport. 100 for 1, 0 for 0 1. Jean Todt won Paris-Dakar, Rally, Monte Carlo, F1 Championship, Le Mans. How you can, how you can find someone like him comparable to, how comparison you can make him to Flavio? It's impossible. Flavio was selling a T-shirt before to win Formula 1.
What were Flavio's strengths?
It's a kind of, when you play card, he gamble a lot. And he had his strength to be close to Bernie.
Did you clash with him quite a lot? Do you feel that the Latin nature of you and him clashed?
Yeah. We clashed a lot, actually, but it was a good experience for me.
And how was Alain Prost as a team boss? How did he compare as a team boss to a driver?
He was not lucky to have a financial situation and a technical situation too complicated in one time. So my dream was actually to finish my career with him and to make a French team winning together. That was my dream. It didn't happen. It's a shame.
What were the particular problems with the team, or was it just too extreme that the Peugeot didn't have enough power?
And then reliability, and it was too complicated.
Okay, so you ended with Eddie Jordan, the man who'd made it all happen in the first place.
That was funny because we had a mutual huge respect. He knew he had to wait a decision from Honda to have a Sato or not. So he said to me, if you want, you come. But I don't guarantee you the drive for next year, and I will be very pleased to have you. And they say, okay, I come to you.
And how magical was it? You scored points was it Spa?
Yeah,
I think.
Spa, yeah.
How
Spa,
magical was that?
That Spa was a very good race, but I was at the end of my career, and I knew I had not a good future, not a stable future. So it was not a magical moment for me, because to leave Formula 1 was the worst day of my life when I have to say, I stop.
What did you miss about it?
It's my life. A few months ago, I had opportunity to drive the Renault F1 in Paul Ricard, but not the latest one, but the car who Kimi won the race in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, so 2013, I think.
It was something like that.
Yeah.
And with the Renault staff, fantastic car. And I had 4 laps to do, okay? You have to understand, when you get old, you have not the same head. You are full of things to think during the night. So when you go to bed around 4 o'clock, you wake up and you don't know how to come back and to sleep, So when I drove the car for 4 laps, for 1 full week, I slept more than 8-9 hours a night, just being thinking about these laps, about the corners, the power, the braking. It is something you miss when you have the passion of driving a Formula One car, you know.
And did all the magic come straight back?
Immediately, magic, not physical. So
4 laps was enough.
4 laps was too much. Steering wheel helped me a lot.
Of course, the power steering now.
Yeah, exactly. But the head was starting to go like, the left and right. And then I start to have a pain on my back. But it was, I didn't care. I enjoy very much.
And Jean, the good thing is you're able to sort of relive it all again now through Giuliano, your son. How much are you enjoying being a racing dad? Are you a good racing dad? A calm racing dad?
I live with him by watching on TV and watching on track what he do. I would like to give advice non-stop, but I don't. I'm just there and I wait his comment to make him understand something maybe he doesn't understand yet. But they have so much information, the young drivers now, he's with Ferrari Academy, so there is engineers who are working after them. They go on simulator, they have the race engineer and the team. So everybody is giving advice. I just can give him a feeling I had pre-championship, pre-race, after race, going back to one bad race to another one. This kind of things we are talking together. Like, when I'm in Monza, I was leading and then 8 laps to go. I have to stop because I lost my rear wheels. Going back to my house, then to wake up and to think about what I lost. And anyway, you have to make another lap, another race. And then you come back to the race and you forgot what you did. And this kind of things we talk. But I never talk about him, cut the curve. Because YouTube, onboard camera, telemetry, simulator, they know how to cut or to cross a curve.
Do you think, you were such a natural driver yourself, do you think the current guys coming through almost have too much information?
100%.
None of it is intuitive now. It's all taken from...
It's just theory. And plus with Pirelli, now you need to work in a window. So you need to, they go out of the box, 2 warm lap, 1 push, 1 slow, 1 push, and it's finished. The weekend is over. Then race. That's not the best way to learn. Especially nowadays, they want the driver, an 18 years old, already driving Formula One. He's too young. I start when I was 18, and when I start in Formula One, I was 24. I think 24 is a good age, you're not too old. And you are a bit more mature, you understand more things. You had already your heart broken by a girl, and you're okay. But when your heart is broken by a girl and they are on the middle of a F2 championship, you threw in a garbage 1.5 million. You understand?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Jean, it's been a wonderful chat. Thank you so much. Just, what do you think your legacy is in Formula One?
Now, I speak sometimes with the young ones, and just to remember some moment of my races, it makes me just happy.
Which race in particular? I'm going to ask you that. Is it Canada, or are there other races that give you a better feel?
Suzuka.
Which
if you
one?
look, Suzuka 95. I didn't finish, but look the race.
Yeah. You love Suzuka. What a wonderful circuit.
Yeah, the best. One of the best.
Yeah. Well, Jean, thank you so much.
You.
Great to chat.
Thank you.
Well, I never. Nelson Piquet helping Jean with his first Ferrari contract. And what about those negotiations with Williams ahead of the 91 season? There were many little gems throughout that chat, not least the brilliant anecdote about carpooling with Gerhard Berger. What a duo they made. And let's spare a moment to think about what might have been. What would Jean have achieved had he driven for Williams for 3 seasons? How many races, even championships, might he have won in an FW14 or 15? Thank you for being so open and honest, Jean. It was great to catch up. Well, that's it for another week, but don't panic. We'll be back in just 7 days with another superstar from the world of Formula One. And if you can't wait that long, there's always the back catalogue to work your way through. We're up to episode 38 now, so there's hours of F1 chat for your listening pleasure, including last week's guest, James Allison. Thanks for all your messages about the show with James. As many of you commented, he is a great interview and brilliant at his job. Yet the message I've pulled out this week isn't about the conversation with James specifically, it's about Beyond the Grid in general. Loving Beyond the Grid, wish we had it when I was a kid. It's highly insightful, I find it delightful, I hope you never get rid. Thank you, Drift Division, very touching and brilliantly poetic. Are all our listeners as gifted with words? And like Drift Division, please keep your feedback coming, we love it. Use the hashtag F1BeyondTheGrid and you can tweet me at TomClarksonF1. But before we do that, make sure you subscribe to Beyond the Grid on your favourite podcast app. I really don't want you to miss out. Beyond the Grid is produced by F1 in association with Audio Boom. Until next time, keep it flat out.